This record is how old? Really? Which makes me how old? Oh boy. Cue the music. Let's do this. Thanks for joining today. As I stated in the intro, we're here to talk about an album that is how old? Which makes me how old? Yeah. So, I'm down in the basement the other day, kicking over some boxes, trying to do a little bit of cleanup. We're going to be moving here in a couple months. So, I'm down there. Oh, haven't opened this box in a while. Just kept bringing the box from one house to one house to one house. So, I opened it up to determine if this is something we're going to chuck in the dumpster or we're going to move to the next place. Well, I'm glad I opened it up because what I found was Rolling Stones' Tattoo You, 1981 release. And what's special about this album is this is the very first record that I bought with my own money. I bought two records that day. I bought this and I bought Foreigner 4, both released in 1981. I remember that day because I went to the mall with my parents and they picked up a new turntable. And I have it on the floor over there. It's a Dual, D-U-A-L. I think it's a German turntable. And I remember how pleased my parents were getting this thing. Had a lot of memories on that. The reason I have it now is that obviously they don't need it anymore. It doesn't work. It's a pile of junk. But I'm going to try to use it as a project to maybe do some tinkering and get that thing up to working order. So back to this album. Rolling Stones' Tattoo You. This, as mentioned earlier, came out in 1981. I was in 7th grade, little 12-year-old at the time, and the only Stones that we had in the house that I remember, both my parents' albums, was the Hot Rocks, 1964 to 1971, I think it was called, and it had the picture, the album cover with all their profiles, all the band members' profiles. I'll put a picture somewhere around here. I mean, that was awesome. That was a great compilation. It was played a lot in the house. And they had an 8-track of Emotional Rescue. And that always brings back fond memories of summertime and hitting the boardwalk. And I can remember when Emotional Rescue was brand new, right, hearing it on the radio. So that was... That's really the little bit of background on this particular album, for me anyway. Now, the band itself was, if you remember, coming out in 1980 after the Emotional Rescue, the band wasn't in the best of shape internally. A little bit of squabbles. Keith was better, it wasn't on the band was going through some personality conflicts at the time, we'll just say that. Recording for a new album, but they really couldn't get all the band members in the recording studio at the same time. So what they did with Tattoo You is you've got tracks on this album that were recorded anywhere from the early 70s all the way up to about, 81. Start Me Up was the actual track that they had been working on for years as a reggae track. And there are some musicians on this that weren't even in the band any longer. So, and I'll go through that as we chat, going through the songs. But just as a list of other individuals on this record besides the Stones themselves, you got Nicky Hopkins playing piano on some tracks. Ian Stewart, right? He was kind of like that sixth Stone anyway. He's playing piano on some tracks. Billy Preston's playing some piano on the tracks. Wayne Perkins playing electric guitar on one of the tracks. Pete Townshend's playing backing vocals on Slave. Didn't know that. And you've got Sonny Rollins who's playing sax. I thought it was Bobby Keys. In fact, I wrote in my notes, Bobby Keys. I was wrong. I did some research, obviously, after I listened to it. No, it was Sonny Rollins. Jimmy Miller, old producer, was playing some percussion on some of the tracks. You've got Sugar Blue playing harmonic on 5 of the tracks. But Mick Taylor, right? Mick Taylor was there prior to Ronnie Wood. And Mick Taylor's on 2 of the tracks as well, playing guitar. And those we'll get to in a few minutes. So that's a little bit more of the history. So let's go to what we all want to know, right? That's right. How does it sound? Let's go. How does it sound? Well, had to clean this thing a few times. This thing was not in the best of conditions. Certainly didn't take care of my records at all when I was a kid. Didn't appreciate them as I do now. And after I left home, this record stayed for a while, and I think got a little abused with some younger siblings perhaps. But after a couple good cleanings, 3 cleanings on there, I dropped the needle on, first on side 1, and yeah, there was some surface noise there to be sure. I expected that, a couple little light scratches, but overall, it sounded really, really good. In fact, it exceeded my expectations tremendously. Soundstage was big and wide. The band was up in your face, really good holographic image, really good soundstage. Here's some of the words that I wrote down to describe what I was hearing. In no particular order, these are the words that I was using. Hot, meaning, yeah, this thing was hot. It was recorded hot. It has, it's got not only good volume on there, but it's got great snap and great dynamics on this album. Lively, brilliant, punch, bright, edgy. These are all words that I used to describe what I was hearing. And yeah, it sounds really, really good. In fact, you know, we all know the hits on this song. Hey you, I think I've seen you on this channel before. Thanks for coming back, I appreciate it. You look a little new, and hey, thanks for finding the channel. I hope you enjoy it. If you both be so kind as to hit that like button, if you do in fact like this content, hit the like button, it's free. And hey, if you do like the channel, don't be afraid. Go hit that subscribe button, that's free too. And you know what? You can always go back later and unsubscribe. But by doing those 2 things, you really help support this channel. I appreciate it. All right, back to the Stones, Tattoo You. But the best part of this journey was I forgot all the other songs that I probably haven't heard in decades. And we'll get to those here in a minute. So, side 1. Okay, we start off with the song that we've heard in the car. We've heard it in the boombox. We've heard it in sports arenas. We've heard it in 70,000+ seat football games. Start Me Up. And in this case, first thing I wrote here was bang. Start Me Up was huge. Huge. Soundstage was easily 4+ feet outside my speakers, and it was easily 4 to 5 feet above the tweeters here, reaching up to the ceiling. Again, no one was more surprised than I was to hear how good this thing sounded. About Start Me Up, yeah, it was in your face, but those hand claps, man, they jumped out at you. I'm a sucker for hand claps, if you've seen some of my previous videos. Yeah, the hand claps in this thing were great. The harmonies were great. Once I heard Start Me Up, I'm like, oh, this might be a fun session today. This might not be a disappointment. And it was far from a disappointment. So come out of Start Me Up, go into Hang Fire. Hang Fire, yeah, it's a toe tapper. Hang Fire, Bird on a Wire, right? Great, great song. And just like the first one, had some punch, some snap to it. And again, the soundstage was really nice. Pop into song 3, Slave. First of all, I'm still blown away that Pete Townsend sang backing vocals on this song. But Slave, first thing I wrote down here was, I need to buy a new copy. Although this was exceeding my expectations, yeah, I gotta go find I don't mean go find a brand new release. I go start looking in the discount bins at record stores next time I get to them, and I'll see if I can find a cleaner copy of this, because as you'll see throughout the rest of this review, this record's really, really good. Great edge to the guitars in Slave. Wide soundstage, like I said, and great sax in isolation. You do get great image separation, but the sax solo in this thing was really special. And again, I originally thought it was Bobby Keys, shame on me. Found out afterwards Sonny Rollins did all the sax solos on this record. Really, really good. And what I liked about this song is you had kind of an opposites attract. You had the smoothness of the sax solo, and from a hearing perspective, the sax solo was just smooth, where the guitars had that hard edge, and mixing the two together really made a nice sound in my ears. Billy Preston plays keys on this song too, so he's gonna pop up from time to time on some of these songs. This is one of them. I put down here great mix and great master, holographic, as holographic as any of the songs on this album got. Meaning, close your eyes and visualize that sound stage where you've got the different instruments in isolation from left to right, but you also have that depth. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on some of the other songs coming up, but you had a good amount of depth on this album as well. All right, so come out of Slave, and we roll into song 4, Little T and A. It brings a smile on my face because you got to remember, as a 12-year-old, Little T and A, I felt like little Calvin and Hobbes from the comic strip. Little T and A, what does that mean? Oh, let's listen to Keith sing it. So yeah, it made me smile and chuckle a little bit to myself the other day. Great Keith Richards song, Little T and A. As I put down here, a 12-year-old smirk came across my face. What I pulled away from this song is Keith sounds great. His voice really hadn't changed too much from some of the earlier songs, and he was singing in full vigor on this song. Nice guitar meshing, or weaving, as Keith would say, on how him and Ronnie weaved their guitars amongst each other, and the sum was always greater than the parts between the two of them. This song was quite bright sounding. I don't mean that in a negative way. You did have the bottom end and the bass here, but the mixing really brought up the highs in this song, and I remembered it much brighter. Well, I was hearing it much brighter than what I remembered. All right, coming out of Little T and A into the 5th song, Black Limousine. Completely forgot about this song until I heard it again. And I recall hearing it on my parents' stereo. You got to remember, back in the day, we did have that new turntable, but it was going through a Kmart receiver. Yes, a Kmart receiver. Cue the picture somewhere here. And my parents had these DIY homemade speakers, which they were like the size of college refrigerators. And I remember listening to Black Limousine back in the day. But what did I get out of it yesterday? It's a swanky tune, man. This is a good song. I put great slide guitar. I think it's Ronnie on this one. Great slide guitar on this. Great depth, vocals, drums, and keyboards. So this is one of the songs I was telling you about, the depth, that I was really surprised. You'd have the drums in the center channel, and that was omnipresent throughout the song. But then you'd have mixed vocals coming in the center, and they were easily in front of the drums, but not by much. And then when the keyboards were added, it was another layer within the center channel depth. So that's what I mean about depth, everybody. You get that great holographic sense. When you close your eyes, you're getting a complete sound stage, both left to right and forward to back. And in this song, it was really good. I put down here a hot-rodded song, very good sound stage. So the Black Limousine was one of those surprises that, good tasty song that I frankly forgot about. Coming out of that, we come to one of their hits from this one. It's a quasi-hit, you may remember. It's the last song on side 1 called Neighbors. And right away, Charlie's snare drum pops. And I mean pops. So if you want to know what dynamic range is, put this track on. And you get that immediate snap in the right where the song starts, right? And it's got punch. You feel it as much as hear it. It's great. I put around here as well, great chorus separation. You're hearing all of the individual voices in the chorus. It didn't come at you all at once or out of one channel. You were hearing it spread across both speakers, both amongst the left and the right, and also that fictitious center channel. The vocals, the chorus vocals were really good and separated. Ian Stewart's playing a great piano on this song, and Sonny Rollins once again is playing great sax on the song as well. Neighbors, great way to end side 1. Go over there, flip it over, and side 2 starts. And let me see. Side 2 starts, and I put in parentheses, I forgot how good this side is. In fact, I'll say it now. After I finished this whole album, I went back and I listened to side 2 again. It was that good. We all know the hits on this song, and most of the hits were on side 1, right? Start Me Up, Hang Fire, maybe a little TNA, maybe a little Neighbors. Those are the ones we mostly heard. Side 2, apart from the last song on the album, none of these other songs got radio play. First song, side 2, is Worried About You. And it's big. It's the best sounding so far is what I put on here. And great image isolation. Billy Preston is on keyboards again. On the left channel, you got Ronnie just playing a little scratch guitar. I believe it's Ronnie. And the echo and the reverb on that guitar was just something special. It was such a simple what he was playing, but it sounded oh so tasty sweet. In the right channel, you got Charlie playing the hi-hat, and it is so clear, like diamond clear, if that's something. You just hit that hi-hat, and it was right there in the room. And this was the first one that I said, you feel like you're kind of in the room. I didn't get that sense as much on the first side, but man, Worried About You, I forgot how good these songs were, and this was one of them. I put hot guitar solo as well. I don't know the way they recorded it back then, but I like the way the mix is on this album. And I forgot really what that early 80s sound was. It was pre the 80s pop. It's not that, but the way that these guys were recording this album, yeah, it brought a smile to my face. It was a good listen. All right, coming out of Worried About You, you're coming on the second song called Tops. This is one that had been in the can for a while. It never made it one of the earlier records because Mick Taylor plays guitar on this thing. Got a great drum sound on this thing too. I put down here, song has thump. Do yourself a favor. We'll do that again later, but do yourself a favor. Listen to the second side of this album if you get a chance to. If you own it, just go put it on. Man, some of these songs were fantastic. Still are fantastic. As I mentioned, Nicky Hopkins plays piano on the song, and Tops, for whatever reason, this is one of the songs that was making me remember about being a kid again. Black Limousine was one. This was another one that I hadn't heard in such a long, long time that a lot of stuff was coming back into the memory banks again. Good stuff. All right, coming out of Tops, we go into called Heaven. And I just put cool tune, I Forgot. Sounds a little bit different than just about any other song on the album. Got a wide sound stage with a great panning effect going back and forth with either the vocals or some of the instrumentation. Nice mix. Enjoyable to listen to. In fact, what I wrote down here, fun song to listen to. It's a little trippy. A little bit different for Stones. Certainly, it's an outlier on this album. Doesn't make it any better or worse, but it's fun. It's a fun song. Very detailed drumming I put on this one, where it's really crisp. It's in that center channel. It's sitting about 2 feet above the tweeter, and Charlie was just keeping it tight the whole song. It was really well done. The last thing I put on here is there was some buried vocals on the left channel that I hadn't ever noticed before. It's Mick, just kind of scatting off on something, on the outro, and I never heard it before. Or certainly didn't remember hearing it before. I probably never heard it before, even on those do-it-yourself speakers that my parents had as a kid. These are probably the best setup that I've ever listened to this album on. And again, it's a very modest system. For those who don't know what I'm listening to, look down in the description, and you'll pick up on what my system entails today. Coming out of Heaven to the 10th song in the album called No Use in Crying. Nicky Hopkins is playing piano on this one, and you do definitely get that in-room feeling on this. I put great guitar fills on the right, just tasty, not overbearing it. I think it's Keith just by the way the style is, where when there's a break in the song, Keith fills it. with just a little bit of noodling, or just enough to make it really, really tasty. And the clarity of that image was fantastic. I put So Good. Again, the second side of this album it's like a lost artifact or something. It was just a great sounding second side of this album. Not to take anything away from the first side. My point is I forgot about most of these songs on the second side, and I won't be making that mistake again. I'll be listening to this more in the future. The last song on the album, we all remember it. We remember the MTV video, Waiting on a Friend, right? New York City, Keith walking down the sidewalk, Mick walking down the sidewalk, and then they look like they could have been on the set of Sesame Street, if I'm being honest. What I wrote here is Mick Taylor is playing guitar again on this. I did not know that until a couple hours ago. I was flabbergasted. I had no idea Mick Taylor was playing guitar Waiting on a Friend. It's wide, deep, and tall. This is one of the better sound stages on the album. For a 43-year-old album in pretty rough shape, you're getting 5 feet on either side of the left or right channel. In case in my room, right, speakers are 10 feet apart, which means I'm getting about a 20-foot wide sound stage. And you're getting some height on this one as well. It's getting up to about 5 feet above the tweeters here. I put down here as notes. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the song goes on. Sonny Rollins plays sax on this song. So much more detail. And I wrote these notes on a couple other songs as well. So much more detail coming out of this song. I remember watching it on MTV, listened to it on the radio, blah, 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 blah. I forgot how much detail was in this song, or never quite realized how much detail was in this song because I never listened to it on a modestly priced hi-fi system before. Never mind a high-end hi-fi system. On a modestly priced hi-fi system, this song was epically big. Really, really good. Has a really good holographic outro as well. So that's Tattoo You, a 43-year-old album that I dug out of the box of the basement to get ready for a move, and I couldn't have been more happy. This wasn't the video I was planning on doing this week, but I had to. This thing was that good. It surprised me. So, final thoughts on this album? Yeah, if you're out and about in those record stores, start flipping through the discount bins, all right? The used bins. Because if you can find one of these things in really good shape, get it. I'll put a picture on here that I took from Discogs. I mean, you can find them for dirt, for money. I mean, you could find these things really, really cheap. There's enough of them out there in the United States. This is the first U.S. pressing, and it's excellent. It really is excellent. And another thing I'll say on here is, man, they really crammed a lot of music on this album. If you've seen the pictures that I put on earlier, look how close they get to the center ring. I mean, there was not a lot of room, not a lot of space that they left on this album, which I was surprised it sounded so hot, right? So loud. Typically, you don't get that unless they make a little bit more space on the record. Now, they crammed the music in on this one. My last two thoughts on here were, I may have to invest in a record cleaning machine. I know there's a lot of them out there. If any of you, by the way, have any recommendations on a record cleaning machine, the new records that I buy now, I have sonically cleaned at this place that I buy my records on the other side of the country. I may have to do some research to see if anybody does that locally. Here's a business proposition for somebody out there in the southern New Hampshire realm. Anybody have a record cleaning machine that they would like to charge for? Because, yeah, I think there are so many diamonds out there that are sitting in used record bins that with just a little bit of cleaning, these things will be brought back to life again and sound better than ever. So that's one thing that I took away from this. Another one is I just may have to go look at, they did a remaster and a 40th edition in 2021. I have subsequently looked at the reviews on those, and I believe that it is all analog, right, in the mastering process. There are two records to this 40th anniversary. One is the remastered album in its entirety. I believe that it is a all analog recording process. If not, please mention it. I haven't seen anything to the contrary there. I'll leave a picture here somewhere. And the second album comes with a bunch of tracks that they recorded at the same time that never wound up on an album. And I'm looking forward to hearing those. I may buy that just to hear some of those tracks. Because this time period, really, for the Stones, gets left behind a lot. For me personally, anyway. I mean, I listen to a lot of this. My Stones era is Mick Taylor's era, right? I really live in the from Let It Bleed right through maybe Black and Blue, right in there, right? Where you've got, I think, the apex of the Stones albums. But this one should not be forgotten. This one is so much better than I remembered it. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for sticking around and going down memory lane with me. This was fun. I didn't think it was going to be something that I enjoyed as much as I did. So, if you're like me and you're stressed out from time to time and you want to give yourself a little time at the end of the day, do yourself a favor. Go out there, dig out your copy of Tattoo You, or go out there and find one in the used record store bin, clean it up, put it on your turntable, sit back with your favorite beverage, and give yourself a break. And enjoy, heck, fall in love with the music that you always remembered loving, but you haven't given yourself the time of day in decades. That's it, everybody. Enjoy the music. Hope to see you soon. Be well. Bye.